What's up, guys? I'm Crystal Lee Naomi, aka Jasmine Borders on Tyler Perry's Sisters. Be sure to subscribe to the Haves and the Have-Nots review for not only reviews on the Haves and the Have-Nots, but also on Sisters. And while you're at it, give your girl a follow on Instagram at Crystal Lee Naomi. And I'll see you every Wednesday at 9, only on BET.
All right, Sisters fans, here we go. Season 2, Episode 8, moving on. 9 out of 10. I actually love this episode. So before going forward in the video, please take a moment. Go ahead and hit that like button. Hit subscribe. Click the bell notification icon and select all. That way you keep notified whenever I post content to the channel. And follow me on social media. Links are in the description below. Yeah, I got about a page and a half worth of notes, and I'm ready to talk about it. Like I said, I enjoyed this episode from start to finish. I enjoyed the pacing. I feel like we did a good job balancing all the characters. Yeah, I really liked it. So Preston pretty much is, 2 through and he leaves. Danny's kicking James out. And I mean, let's be real. Even James noticed that Preston was pretty hurt by what was going on. So without even letting him get fully dressed, Danny kicks James out. Zach comes in like, what the hell's going on here, Danny? And pretty much just wanted to give her a ride to work. She's curious about where the truck came from. And okay, I noticed that a lot of people, look, if you haven't done so, if you don't follow me on any social media, but you're a fan of Sisters, but at the very least, go down to the links and go down to the Facebook group section. The Sisters Facebook group is probably my favorite group. I need to double check with Facebook because the Haves and the Have-Not group ain't been, alive for a while. I don't know if there were too many group content warnings or whatever, but that group just hasn't been growing like it used to. But Sisters, that group, those comments and posts people leave have me rolling. Somebody was like, so nobody's going to talk about the fact that Danny went from black to chestnut colored hair after only being in the bathroom for a couple minutes. But I don't think it was that's the one thing about Sisters that's been a bit iffy in season 2. One scene we got Calvin and Maurice going to the club. Then in the very next scene, Maurice is in drag. And then with Sisters, 1 minute, Danny is in bed about to go into the restroom. And then the next scene, her and Zach are going to work and her hair color is different. I'm not going to let that bother me too much. It's just funny that people pointed it out. But she's suspect on where the truck came from. And she even notices Zach's change of demeanor from the affirmations, his positive attitude. So you can seriously see a major difference in how Zach and Fatima have only known each other for barely 24 hours. And Zach has been look, yeah, I know they, knocking the boot. Well, knocking boots the night before, but you can already see that Zach has been making a change for the better after only knowing Fatima for less than 48 hours. But he was just a good for nothing after being with Karen for 3 years. Now, once again, I'm not saying Zach isn't guilty or I'm not saying Zach is innocent for how things went down with Karen. But at the same time, that just goes to show not just when a man has a woman that has his back that gives him positive reinforcement, but that goes for women as well. It's better to have somebody build you up than to tear you down. So Zach's change in demeanor is the only thing I feel once season 2 is said and done, and I'll go back to this, the only thing I wish Tyler Perry did not do was have Zach bust into that hotel room. That's the biggest misstep of Zach this season, because up until that point, he had 100% my full support. But that one thing he did, I wish he didn't do it. But Fatima calls and they have a fight over the phone. This is shortly after Zach is asking Danny. He's like, well, you talking about me? What about you, all them men coming out of the your apartment? But Fatima calls. Danny takes the phone, curious about what's going on. Where'd you get the truck? Who's this? Because obviously Karen is her girl, so she's going to be a bit abrasive when it comes to Zach seeing anyone else. But let's be real here. Well, yeah, I can honestly see why, because if you go back to season 1, Danny was trying to hook those two up again for most of the season. So, yeah, I can see why she would be upset. But, still, it's like you want to see your friend do well. So there you go. But then we go over to Andy popping up at the law firm, looking good in that blue and white outfit. I like that. And Fatima says, hey, go in that room and follow Hayden's lead. So this was an excellent scene. Turns out Bellamy is fired, which once again confirms that Sistas takes place before Bruh. Because if you go back to Bruh season 1, Bellamy pops up to see Mike and Andy, obviously still their boss. So once again, full confirmation. Bellamy being fired, that means Bruh season 1 takes place before Sistas episode 1. So Bruh takes place before. Bellamy's fired. And after I like this settlement scene. It was really good. They kind of go back and forth. 1 million, 1.7. No. 2 million. Plus I get to work at the law firm. Plus I get Bellamy's old job as your partner. Fatima gets a pay raise. Okay. We're not going to give you $2 million and you work here. Here's what we're going to do. And I like this. Andy states the case of, look, you just stated all the reasons why I'm a good attorney, but I think it will be a help in order to give this law firm a boost in diversity. So I would like Bellamy's job. I like that touch. In the day and age we live in, where things feel force-fed down our throats, whether it be, yes, I'm saying this, diversity in regards to having black people in certain jobs and positions, LGBTQ representation in movies and television shows and whatnot, women in the workplace having equal or greater power than men in some scenarios. I liked how this was tastefully woven into the story. I like that a lot. So this is why this episode gets a lot of high praise. So $1.2 million settlement. And I'm going to release your apartment and your savings. That's the best I can do. And everything else you asked for. So just to break it down, Andy gets a $1.2 million settlement, her apartment and savings. So pretty much her money that was lost was going to be released. And like I said before, this is why she should get that $250,000 back to Gary and leave his ass high and dry. So because I'm like, when I said this in my last video, like that one picture, I cannot find it though. It's when this little girl has a little teddy bear and then Jesus is kneeling there and he's like, just hand it over to me. And he's like, no, but Jesus, I love it, because he has a bigger bear behind his back. Like, look, if you let go of what you've been holding on to, your blessings will be greater if you follow me. So basically, if she would have let go of that $250K, then, you know, she has this huge windfall right now, but that $250K is probably going to drag her back. We'll have to wait and see. But in any case, let me just say it again. $1.2 million. She's a partner. Her apartment's about to be, basically the government's going to let go of her assets. I think towards the end of the video, that episode, Hayden mentioned that, hey, your apartment's available to you now, but your computer and everything, that's still being, you know, they still have clearance on that stuff, but I think she'll get it back eventually. They just have to sweep through it and whatnot. But in any case, Andy, yeah, I'm glad they recognized that she was a pawn in all of this. And I hope that Leslie, what's the name of the PI, right? I hope Leslie pops up this season, because her hard work actually, you know, paid off. So I know a lot of people are still asking, where does Jasmine fit into this? We'll have to wait and see what happens. But in any case, Andy and Fatima, you know, they're giddy with excitement. And is that the right word? Giddy? They're excited. And Andy goes out to check her new office. And Fatima goes to get her coffee. Like she likes her men black. Yeah, Gary is dark. So we go over to Karen and Rachel, who was the first lady of Love Givers Baptist Church, I believe. And she was recommended by Rochelle. And, you know, Karen's in all over the ring. She pretty much is talking like a sailor until Pam lets her know who Rachel is. And, you know, they go from there. Maurice and Sabrina are at the bank. I ain't gonna lie. I hate seeing Sabrina upset, but she's so adorable when she's being pouty. But she, you know, Maurice asked her what's wrong. And she's asking Maurice if Calvin does more than just drink, a nod to the whole, you know, drug thing. And Calvin is brought up in the conversation because Maurice is like, ooh, well, I hope he doesn't, you know, if we're moving in together. But basically he explains, which remember he wasn't supposed to tell, that, hey, Calvin's moving in due to, you know, his father's passing, no insurance, that pretty much screwed over his money. And I do like how Maurice called out Sabrina. It's like, why don't you just ask him directly, like an adult, if he's doing more than just drinking, if he's doing drugs. I'm glad somebody told Sabrina that. So we go over to Andy and Fatima again, and Fatima's invited out to girls. Now, I'm glad that she had Fatima's back by giving her that pay raise. I like that. But remember that when the FBI popped up in like episode 1 or episode 2, Fatima did hide some incriminating evidence from the office. So I don't know if that's ever going to be brought up again. But just remember, Fatima definitely tampered with evidence. So if something goes down, then she could as well. Just remember that. Yeah, long story short, she's invited to girls' night out. And then I think at the end of the scene, you know, Andy texts Danny. He's like, hey, girl, come out. I'm paying. So things are looking up for Andy now. I feel a bit iffy about this because I don't know what kind of message this sends. I mean, hey, ladies and men, to be honest, if you're the mistress or what's a man called? I know a woman is the mistress, but a man is like I don't know. Basically, if you turn into a home wrecker, you'll gain like, it's almost like, you know, in the Bible when Job lost everything in the game that Satan was playing with God. It's like he lost everything, but then God blessed him with like, you know, multiples of what he had before, like children and livestock and property and wealth and everything. So it's like, hey, if you screw over people and then they screw you even worse, then you get proven innocent and you get a huge, I mean, literally you use Paris. You had an affair with a known married man. You cry victim and you get all this. I don't know. I'm not saying I wish anything bad would happen to Andy, but I really don't know what kind of message this sends, but that's just my opinion. So sorry about that. Went on a tangent there. All right. So then we go over to Rachel and Karen. And she pretty much invites her to the church whenever she wants to go. I think that the girls' night's going down at 9 p.m. because she's calling Andy. And, you know, Karen's asking if Aaron can come. It's like, man, this celebration's supposed to be a girls' night, but fine, whatever. Probably because it's like if Fatima can bring, you know, her date, then, you know, Karen can bring Aaron. Ooh, that's right. Aaron and Zach's last encounter wasn't a good one, but I wonder how we're going to see this different Zach interact with Karen and Aaron. So let's see. Apparently Aaron has no church. I know somebody in the Facebook group was like, well, how is Aaron supposed to be a pastor but doesn't have a church? Look, I could be wrong about this, but then again, I did go to seminary. You can be an ordained pastor but not have a church. That's actually a fact. I know it seems suspect given there's a lot about Aaron we don't know, but I mean, that is a good point. I don't know about Aaron, but you know, I'm not upset at Pam. It's like, I know that, you know, Karen kind of went off. It's like, why the hell you ain't tell me she was a first lady? It's like, I mean, should it really matter? But then again, I don't know. So as soon as Rachel leaves, cause I think she said, yeah, I'll leave my phone number and whatnot so you can get in touch and, you know, come by the church whenever. As soon as she goes out, you know, Karen just starts blabbing on about, having all that money, but you're a pastor, must be taking those, congregations money. But Rachel actually forgot her phone. And then she talks with Karen outside. And another reason this episode gets points to me is because it covers a real topic, how the general public or skeptics look at people who have these mega churches. They just think it's a scam, but she pretty much shuts it down. I mean, in a respectful way, it's like, look, speak your mind. Look, I'm not a stranger to what's going on in the real world in reference to how Karen talks, you know, cursing and whatnot, but also she's not oblivious to how people see the megachurch. My husband was a former baseball player and I used to work on Wall Street. We invested well, and that's how we're able to run the church, where we're not gaining any money from the congregation. Any money we get is used to pay the staff, and that's it. Look, as somebody who went to Liberty University and their convocation 3 times a week, I remember questioning my faith during my first semester because I was just like, I don't really know what to say in regards to, you know, starting churches and whatnot, because we would have like church planning month or spiritual emphasis week and whatnot. And throughout the semester or year, we would have like, you know, these former athletes or former stockbrokers. And I felt some kind of way about that. I'm not saying I didn't feel like the mega churches were a scam. What my lack of faith was in, it's like, no, it was my own testimony because, I grew up 10 minutes away from the church, the church that's like the Baptist church 10 minutes away from our house and things like that. So, and then, being saved at 8 and whatnot, it's like these people who, didn't find God until like their late 20s, mid 20s or 30s. But this is after they lived out in the world and they gained their wealth, some, through legitimate matters, like, becoming baseball stars, football players. But then after a life of drugs and sex and all that stuff, they came to know God and turned their lives around. But at the end of the day, it's like, for real, it's almost like the prodigal son in a way, but it's like, it's easier for them to start a church because not only do they have a name for themselves, but they have like millions of dollars to start a church. So it's a lot easier for them to start a church or a mega church than it is for somebody who's been in the faith most of their life, but they don't have the, I guess you could say the capital or the money. But then again, I guess that's when it comes down to the true strength of one's faith. So I really love this discussion, not to mention it just sucks. Like, that's the whole thing, where people with these big churches get a bad rep. Sure, there are people who do questionable things, like, the biggest, I guess you could say, topic of discussion would be John Gray. But to my knowledge, from his TV show to his top selling books, I don't really think he does negative things with the congregation's money. Yes, he's a cheater. It's no secret that his infidelity is out in the open, but as far as I can tell, the man makes good money from his projects outside of the church. So I don't really think when he buys these expensive cars and whatnot, he's using the church's money. Again, I don't know him. I did hear him speak one time. Me and a friend from college went to Pennsylvania. What was it called? Acquire the Fire. And he brought it. Comedic, but he brought a word. Now, that's all I'm saying. But in any case, I didn't mean to go on another tangent, but I just had to say I really love the scene. So correct me if I'm wrong, but is this our first time seeing Danny and Zach at work in season 2? They're at the airport. Not them, Danny's like, oh, I'm getting off work. No, I think this is our first time seeing them at work. I know that when Zach was in jail, we saw Danny on like lunch break in her car, but this is our first time seeing the airport. I think so. But in any case, well, I'm sorry. We got a brain fart there. Yeah, we're seeing them in the airport. So Zach is touching base with Danny because she's been calling Preston all day, and he's over Karen. Danny's still trying to bark up that tree in regards to, Zach and Karen, like, that's why you're in such a good mood, or, oh no, I'm over. Well, no, see, that's how you men are. It's like one minute you're, with somebody, then you're over her and on to the next one. But then it's like, no, me and Karen were together for 3 years, and, you and Cowboy, dating for not too long? It's like, we weren't dating. So basically, Zach calls her out for being in her feelings. And like I said before, I'm not saying that, and I'm not a black woman, so I'm not going to sit up here and say what you should and should be offended by, but, being called gal and whatnot. But Zach rightfully points out, so you're mad at old boy. Wait, you're mad, Danny. You chose to date a white boy, and then you're going to get mad when he acts white. And then she pretty much explains what he did, and then Zach's like, well, why don't you sit there and tell him or teach him what's offensive or what's not, instead of just being offended by everything he does. These are the conversations I miss. Like, even going back to season 1, when Zach calls out Danny for being mad at Preston because you were the one who said stop blowing up your phone, and then when the old boy does what you ask, then you get mad at him. I miss these two. All right, so after that, we go over to the bank closing down. A woman's really pissed off and tries to get in there, flips them off, and then Jacoby comes from the back. His reports are impressive. Maurice is jealous of him, and some people have been suggesting that Jacoby might be gay, but I think that he's more interested in Sabrina, just based off his dialogue and body language. More then he goes for the night. And Sabrina's about to leave, but she's nervous about leaving Maurice alone at the bank, considering what happened with Alonzo. But Maurice is like, don't worry about that. We go over to Hayden and Andy. He's impressed about her record because, you know, when he was talking with the FBI, pretty much looked over her track record and said, yeah, you're a great asset to the firm. Pretty much breaks down the fact that, hey, your apartment's available. And like I mentioned earlier in the video, her things like her computer and some different files, they're still being reviewed, but, you know, she'll probably get them back in the near future. But pretty much just came to give her a word of warning because one of his buddies, who's an officer, heard Gary at, you know, jail, and she should be careful. He got bail, but apparently he was saying some not so nice things, like he wants that money back to $250,000. He heard about, you know, he heard about her going to the gay bar with some dude, Paris, and Hayden just tries to help and tries to be a friend, and Andy she's getting all defensive. I don't know how to feel about that. I just know that we got Zach working on the new house. Fatima stops by, checks in on him, you know, make sure he's doing all right. And that was a good scene. Is when she leaves, you know, the other guys pretty much they know what's up. Well, then we got Andy in the parking garage. Oh, gotta get my keys. And then she gets there. Gary pops up and yells at her to get into the car. So that's the end of the episode. So Andy, I'm like, Andy, you were winning, but now you're kind of regressing back to the I don't need anybody's help. It's like, okay. But overall, guys, this was a very, very good episode. I really enjoyed it, so I stand by my score of a 9 out of 10. I don't think it was a 10 out of 10 exactly. There were some things I'm kind of meh, like the whole Danny here thing, but I did enjoy it. And I wish I could have gotten this review out sooner, but like I said, the holiday, I needed to relax. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts on the episode itself. And after this, all I got to do is review my trailer breakdown for this week's episode of Sistas. I'll get this assisted living and house painting done. I want to take a short break, eat some oatmeal, drink some water, and watch Ruthless and get those reviews up soon too. So thanks so much for being patient with me. Like and subscribe. Shout out to the patrons over on Patreon. If you want to donate to the channel, feel free to do so on PayPal or Cash App.